think I can first speak on behalf of all of our beautiful panelists to thank Dr. Hartnett for everything she does, and Dr. O'Keefe and the School of Business. I think I saw Dr. Rinelli, there you are out there, and Jim Sparks. I've been fortunate to be involved in a lot of the entrepreneurial stuff in the last couple of years, and to say it's impressive is just, I'm so blown away with what the college is doing. And Dr. Saunders, I don't know if she's still here, congratulations. And I'm a UWF alum, I think. Who else is? So I know Katie is too. So with that, we're gonna get to the meat of this. So to follow up with what Emily said, so whether you're a student trying to figure out what the heck you wanna do, or you're in a job now and you kind of know it's not what you're trying to do for the long run, or you have an idea, and like all of us who own businesses and run businesses, you just need a little bit of encouragement to make the step. I think the information that you hear today is gonna be fresh and relevant and timely and mostly, hopefully, inspired. So with that, I'm gonna ask a few questions of each of these incredible women. I know them all personally, I respect them all immensely, and then like Dr. Hartnett said, the most important part is to get you up here and have your questions asked. So with that, are y'all ready for this? Okay, so we'll start with one of she's kind of a bestie. I love her so much. So Shannon Pauline owns a company called Youre, and she'll tell you, and she's a florist at heart and an event planner. And Shannon is one of those people that is so good at her job. Like, she's incredibly good. And when I work with her, because I own a table cover company, which you see in an ad agency, so we've done a lot of events together. Shannon's the person that you just want, like, on your team, because every good idea I've ever had, she's made great, right? But Shannon's also a truth teller. She will tell you if it's not a good idea. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't respect those kind of people in your life, if you don't welcome a person who's a truth teller, you're missing out. Because when I work with her, I always know that she's gonna get the best or create the best idea that I've had. So with that, you know, Shannon was one of a few of us. So the rest of us, I don't know about you, Debbie, I can't quite remember. We all started off on one path and then kind of took a left turn in Albuquerque. But Shannon knew she was really, really good at her job, or knew that she could be very good at her job very early on. So Shannon, I want to ask you first. So how did you get that inner confidence to know and to be okay with saying, I'm really, really good at this, because you were incredibly young when you started off?
I was. So first of all, just your last comment, my face says it first, so I have to back it up with the truth. So anytime I'm working with someone, I'm like, I started when I was 16 just working in a flower shop. I was going to school, I was working multiple jobs, but I really found something that I liked, and I think that's kind of the first step. Is I worked at the veterinary office. I was like, I'm going to be a vet. I worked at the Mexican restaurant. I'm like, I can do this. And I worked in the flower shop. But the flower shop, I was like, oh, this is really interesting to me. And I really found a love for it. And I found that it was something that I was drawn to enough that I was good at it, if that makes sense. It came to me. I think it kind of can come to you somewhat naturally when you do multiple things, kind of picking that thing that you're like, oh, that works for me. So I'm going to try that a little bit harder. So that's kind of how it started.
So next to her is Dr. Grace Torres-Hodges. And if you've ever had dental pain, you know how exhausting, excruciating that can be. Only feet pain can be compared to that. And if you have any problems with your feet, which I recently did, my feet probably called uncle and said, enough. She's the best in the business. So I just want to go ahead and say that. We also ended up figuring out, we went to high school together, who knew? And she's a couple years younger than me. And so with that, I want to ask you, we had kind of a working lunch before this a few weeks back, so we got to know each other and our stories a little bit. So at that lunch, you told a great story. Both your parents were doctors, and so you kind of felt a natural resistance against being all in at first. So how did you learn to trust those people around you that obviously have your best interest and make that change?
Well, first off, thank you for having us all here today. This is one really fun group of girls to work with and everything. We're, you know, I'm in awe of each of them. But with regards to trusting who to rely on, I mean, it's my parents. You know, you're on a path, and Emily was like spot on so many things that we were doing each in our own lives. But, you know, there's this known path. I guess I'm probably the best stereotype. I am Asian. I am a doctor's kid. I am the oldest of three, of a first generation immigrant. My parents immigrated here. So, you know, they were always trying to push us to do the best, live the American dream. So it was kind of understood, you're Dr. Dewey and Dr. Adelaide Torres's kid, well, you must be going into medicine. So the deal in our house was always finish pre-med and we'll pay for school. So I'm going to take that. You know, I was fortunate. We were fortunate to have that. And I did that. My brother, who's an engineer, did that. My sister, who's a violinist, also kind of did that too. But I didn't go that right. I studied biology, but I also studied political science. And I had a gift for working with people. I ran speaker symposiums when I was at Vanderbilt. And I ended up working in DC first. And against my parents' wishes, because I didn't want to go into medicine. They wanted me to go to medicine. But you know, you're surrounded by medicine, so you were always the kid that got called if someone passed out. You were the one that you must know this, you know, that type thing. Anyway, I kind of got away from that and went to DC because I got away from where my parents were. Worked up there, worked in an oceanography firm because with a biology and political science degree, it's few of the times that you can actually combine both things together. You know, I worked for an oceanography consortium. So I was geeky enough but I could also speak, so I could explain things to people. Love my job. I was there for almost 3.5, 4 years. And then one time I was at a party over in Arlington, and 20-somethings, you're living life, you're out and about, and someone passed out. Everybody thought he was just drunk. He was having an epileptic seizure. I picked it up, kind of, and I waited with him for the ambulance. And had more satisfaction in everything that I was, you know, in that moment than anything else that I had been doing in DC. And I was torn because it's like, shoot, I really enjoyed my job and everything, and I could see myself kind of going in that direction, policy work, oceanography, but something was pulling at me. It's like, no, maybe I need to go back and do something again. I was studying martial arts at the time, and I talked to my instructor. I will always credit my instructor, Grandmaster Junri, for 2 things. Number 1, introducing me to my husband. And number 2, for telling me something. I was talking to him in the studio one day, and I said, you know, I don't know what to do. I like what I'm doing, but this happened. And he said, you know, Grace, you know what? Do what makes you feel happy. Do what makes you feel happy, because then when you're happy, you're being honest. And then when you're honest, you actually can share your love for everybody. And people who are honest do that. And it makes the world a beautiful place. And that always stuck with me. I made a career decision that day. I left my job and went back to school. I am in practice here for the last almost going, next year will be my 20th year in practice. So I'm psyched. And you know, as far as trusting, you just surround people with people that you can just bounce ideas off of. I hate to admit this, my parents were right. And there's something, but you know, I think that's when you learn to grow up. You realize that your parents were right on things. They saw something in you.
That's awesome. So our next panelist, Katie Garrett. So she's our own local it girl. I mean, just look at her. We all feel a little bit cooler just when we hang out with her. I mean, I do. We begged her to do our makeup today, but you know, she didn't really care. So Katie is in alcohol-infused customer service. Only next to dealing with brides do I think maybe it's the most difficult. I don't know, maybe really painful. Yeah, exactly, same emotional space. And so Katie is single-handedly turning around the whole downtown entertainment scene, and I'll let her tell you about the businesses, but I was curious when you talked about being a female in a male-dominated business. Katie likes to tell the story that a lot of times when people walk in, they automatically push her aside to look for her husband, who they assume is the owner of the business. So speak to that. How have you shaped your own personal leadership style, being aware that people don't automatically expect for you to be the business owner?
That is absolutely 100% true. If you guys have ever been to Old Hickory, you probably never thought that I would be the one that would own it. It definitely looks like a male would own that establishment, and I take great pride in that and breaking the mold. But that absolutely happens all the time. My husband, he actually works for me, which is super fun, but also super stressful.
That is awesome.
Yeah. But he's wonderful. He's the first one to actually say to somebody, no, this is all her. I just work for her and do what I'm told. So, smart man. But as far as, it's very difficult. I don't know personally another woman who owns a whiskey bar. If she's out there, I'd love to be your best friend. It'd be great. But I had this interesting situation happen to me when I first opened my bar. We deal with distributors. That's how we purchase our liquor. And we had this one particular rep that would come in, and he would never want to talk to me. He would never want to deal with me. He would literally walk in and ask for my bar manager, even if I was sitting right there. And I remember this one day in particular, I was sitting at the bar, my female bartender was working, and he came in and asked to speak with the bar manager. He said, "Is Jeff here?" She politely told him, "No, he's actually off today, but Katie's right down there if you want to go chat with her." And he said, "All right." He walks down, says hello. There happened to be a bartender from another bar down the street just hanging out. He was just having a drink after work. And he proceeded to talk to that bartender about a new product and completely ignored me, the person who pays the bills. So at that moment, that's when I decided, I'm not going to be in the shadow. I'm going to become the most educated person I can about my product, what I sell. And I already was pretty knowledgeable. If you're going to open a whiskey bar, you kind of got to know a little bit about whiskey. But I didn't want to ever be in a situation where I couldn't look at the person next to me, even if he's selling that product, and potentially know more than he does about it. It's difficult to do when you sell over 700 whiskeys, but I think that was a pivotal moment for me to be a stronger female. In order to do that, you can't just rely on book smarts or being friendly. You have to really dive in and become passionate about your product that you're selling or whatever job it is you're doing, to the point so that you can kind of school anybody on what you do.
I think that's a point I'd like to follow up on, that if you've all read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, I'm sure, but when she talks about feeling like an imposter, the one thing that always will give you confidence is being very good at what you do, being very knowledgeable. When you are in a constant state where you're pretending, or it's okay to fake it till you make it. I'm living proof of it. But there's also a point where it really kind of knocks you in the gut of your own self-confidence if that goes on for too long. So being knowledgeable and being very good, I think there's such a sense of confidence that comes with that. You've heard it from Shannon and from Dr. Torres Hodges. Then, that's something that we would all really encourage as a little note, like find something you can be really good at. Our next panelist, Debbie Williams. So Debbie is a super smart girl. As in my marketing and advertising, we've competed against jobs together, and to me, Debbie is just so smart and so talented, and she's a consummate team player. And she's a boss. So she's a leader and a team collaborator. And most people pick a path, right? So Debbie recently did a huge deal where she's the local arm of one of the world's largest advertising and media companies. And Debbie, very early on, I think, reminded other women, it's the South. Sometimes we have problems with candor. Candor's not a bad thing. Helps us, cut to the chase, get stuff done. And Debbie is always a voice of reason that allows people to just get more done faster. So with that, Debbie, talk a little bit about this changing landscape of being a local arm of something that's huge, and how that is now offering so many different opportunities for employment that just didn't exist even 5 or 10 years ago.
I moved here. I'm originally from New York, and I moved here 12 years ago. I was fortunate enough to work remotely for my job in New York for a couple of years until the economy crashed out and my luxury position as a contractor was no longer needed. Faced with a challenging circumstance with a friend and I, the reason I moved here, I met my husband at her wedding and we moved down here. We decided to just go for it and we started our own content marketing agency. And that was at a time when content marketing wasn't even a term people were aware of, especially down here. And so through a lot of hard work and a lot of challenges over the course of 8 years, we built our company and our team primarily in Denver where she had relocated, and we were acquired about 1.5 years ago by a much larger agency in Chicago. So now, not only is our whole former company part of this much larger company, I'm in the unique position where I still have my entrepreneurial mindset and my former team that I built, but we're all now a smaller department within a much, much larger organization. So not only am I faced with the challenge of being a team leader, I'm also one of the only, she and I, we're the co-digital marketing directors of a 20-person team within a 300-person company. So not only are we the only female team leads in the whole organizations, we're the only ones not based in Chicago where the rest of the management is. So every day that is a struggle in terms of communication. I still feel like I'm an entrepreneur and manage a small team in many ways, but at the same time I'm faced with the challenges of being a leader in a bigger organization and continually fighting to have a seat at the table. Having communication options such as Slack, email, video conference enable us to do that. So I technically am part of this really big organization, but there's only 2 of us here in Pensacola technically seeing each other every day, even though I'm managing 20 people based in Chicago and Denver. So just know, don't be limited by location. Now, having a remote career is so much more of an opportunity. I mean, even look at Emily, right? She said earlier she was able to move back here, be by her friends and family, and she works from home managing a multi-million-dollar company. No, don't limit yourself by location. I know, sometimes bigger opportunities can feel challenging being in a smaller community, but know that it's possible, right? Technology tools, excuse me, are at the ready. Video conferencing, remote chatting, and the possibility to grow your skill set where you can be part of a larger organization but still be here is a possibility. So I just encourage everyone here to consider that as a factor. There's millions of companies that are now hiring remote workforces and teams, and building those skills where you know how to collaborate and communicate with people no matter where you're located is essential.
And I would follow up to say that it goes without saying that you need to always, LinkedIn right now is an essential tool in the workplace. Your LinkedIn profile needs to be updated at the ready all the time. And you need to be aware of what the search terms are that companies who are hiring are looking for. So like Debbie said so eloquently, if you've chosen to live in Pensacola, we want you to stay here and grow a team internally or just work here and live here and be happy here. Let them find you. People are looking. Human capital, human talent right now is at an all-time premium. So they will find you. You don't need to move. You can be here, but you need to be mindful of your social media. I know I'm old enough to be most of your moms, at least, or your sisters. So I know it sounds preachy, but you need to be very aware of the images that you're putting out there about yourself. Remember, there's the personal you and there's the professional you. And while Emily likes to say you are enough, those are 2 completely different personas. So be very careful about that. So speaking up, Shannon, I don't think you did this by design, but, and Michael's pretty girly. I love him. You have 1 male staffer, but mostly you have a whole tribe of these incredibly talented young women as part of your team. Is there any different management style that you think of in managing them, or?
Well, they're a lot easier to manage.
Really?
Yes.
I thought we were difficult.
No. Well, in the business that I'm in the floral industry is really more of, and just generally more of a female-based, just more women are drawn to that, not as many men, and that's very general, but I don't have as many resumes from gentlemen. So just over time, we have built it just based on great resumes, great people, great experiences. But I have been very lucky. And what I found is that one team of awesome women can do a lot. Because we do a lot of very physical labor, so part of our job is event work. So we are working, so Emily was talking about seasons, so I told Jay and I said, my kids definitely know what in season is, because when I'm in season, which we call wedding season, it's for several months at a time, and we put in a lot of hours. Now, we all take a break afterwards. Summertime, I'm like, everybody take off. But we do a lot of physical work, and so that was part of it. You know, for a long time, I felt that we had to have men on our team, that we needed some muscle. Come to find out we don't. You know, we are muscle. We are very strong individuals. As a team, all four of us can lift a cast iron urn into a U-Haul. We can haul that dolly down that boardwalk. So, you know, that's been just something that's happened organically, but I've also found that I didn't need to change that.
Yeah.
With regards to having the right team, one of the things I was going to say was that, you know, as a physician, one of the reasons you're probably wondering why in the world I'm here. I'm kind of breaking the mold. I am an independent doctor that only has a staff of 3, myself and then 3 other people. You don't need, if you have the right people, like she does, you know, you can do a lot together. And the same thing's true in any business that you're doing. You get the right people in the right place, it makes all the difference in the world.
So that was my next question for you, is that you have chosen to do this a little differently. And the world of medicine, I mean, it's one of the bragging rights now that Pensacola has. We have a lot going on. We're a leader in a lot of these areas. So what do you see are some trends in your industry as far as future jobs that you'd like to share?
Well, you know, one thing, UW is so in tune with that. The other day, they actually had a healthcare forum with all the CEOs. One of the most frustrating things for us as those that give the care out is the regulation that we're having from insurance companies and also from government entities. But it always comes down to relationships. It's a patient-doctor relationship. A lot of what Debbie was talking about, making those connections, staying linked in and everything like that. You know, doctors don't know about this stuff a lot of times. And those of us that are in medical school, we didn't learn that in school. So stuff that actually comes easy for everyone that went through a business career is not something that we're seeing a lot of. And it's now just beginning to come out that, you know, you don't have to go with a group practice. You don't have to join a hospital. You can hang a shingle. You know what, there's that old saying, I think Pavlov said it, that, you know, if you want to learn a new idea, read an old book. You know, this is an old book. This is the way that doctors used to do things, and it's about keeping that patient-doctor relationship. Talk to your own doctors, you know, as far as what you can do in an immediate thing. Talk to your own doctors and tell them, you know, you can get out of this. Emily was talking about burnout. Burnout is one of the biggest things in medicine right now. But things that are really cool in medicine is technology. We have health smart readers. We have remote technology and being able to do telemedicine. A lot of artificial intelligence things that are coming out with regards to monitoring and actually diagnosing. And telemedicine by itself, being able to talk with patients remotely. There's always going to be a component of physical exam, okay? That's part of it. But it's always establishing that relationship. And whether it's medicine or anything that you're doing, that's kind of one of the key things there. But that's a neat trend that I think everybody can get involved in.
So what you heard her say is that if you're not going to be the doctor, you can be part of the support team. And I think people naturally are either the person in the front or the support team, and the world needs both, right? So you kind of keep questioning yourself of, are you the front and center person, or are you that necessary support team? And what you hear Grace saying is reach out, have conversations, find out where those opportunities are for yourself. So Katie, you told an interesting story about the interview, how people come and interview and they kind of miss the mark, or in the job that they're in is how you determine future talent. For all these people who are maybe interviewing or looking to pivot, talk a little bit about what makes a good interview for you.
So anybody can learn how to make cocktails, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of specific things in the career field you're wanting to go into that anybody can learn. So for me, when I'm interviewing somebody, I really don't need to hear about how great you are at X, Y, and Z, no matter what field you are. You're great at typing, cool, most of us are nowadays. Something that I feel is really important that people miss when they're being interviewed is the personal, the connection. Not just, are you a fun person to be around or anything like that. It's more of, why do you want to work for our company from your standpoint? What is about us that you think is a good fit in your life? These are things that I think a lot of people are forgetting about. You're spending almost as much time at your work as you are in your personal life, if not more. So you better make sure where you want to go to work, you want to be there with those people, and vice versa. I don't want to hire somebody who doesn't feel the passion behind their job or a particular passion for my company. I don't want people to work for me that don't care. And in the short amount of time of an interview that you have for somebody, it's imperative that you somehow let them know you want to work just for them. What is it about their company that is so special? Without that, you're not going to stand out, at least not to me. And I know we've kind of discussed it when we're interviewing people. It's more about that connection you want to make for a company, how you want to be with them, and vice versa. Just a very tactical thing that I love. You know that question at the end of an interview when they look at you and say, do you have any questions for us? And you go, nope, I'm good. You're not good. You're not. Even if you actually did get all the questions you might have thought you had answered, ask something. Write it down so you don't forget. You know how it is in an interview, you're nervous, so you forget some stuff. Write a few questions down. If you answer half of them, great. But it really shows the person that's interviewing you that you're inquisitive about their company and what your job's gonna be like. Even if it's something super basic, it shows initiative that you wanna learn more about what you can do for that place and what they can do for you. So always ask questions.
You also, just to follow up, you mentioned a really cool thing. I thought that you always look at your bus people as your future bartenders. So we cannot tell you enough to value the job you have currently. You're getting paid to learn how to run a business. Even if you have the world's worst boss and a job that you're not particularly fond of, those are all paid ways that you're learning of how you're going to be a different manager, how you're going to treat your people differently. And Debbie, we talked a little bit about this at the lunch, but there's also this part. You've been a very vocal proponent of knowing your value and asking for a rate of pay that is fair. I have also experienced recently something that I would call a bit of an overreach. People come to me and ask me what kind of training I'm going to pay for, and the salary is a little high based on their level of experience. So can you talk a little bit about knowing the value of who you are at what stage and being able to take on jobs and do it well while you're in it?
So, you know, as I mentioned, you know, when you change markets, and that's another part of why I encourage you to know the value of what you're worth no matter where you are. So, you know, a lot of times people want to pay, obviously, cost of living and variations, but if you're all working for the same company, you deserve the same amount of pay. That's something I stress to anybody I ever talk to. When I moved here and I talked to some local companies, they wanted to offer me a quarter of what I made in New York. Granted, New York's an exceptional market. I knew there'd be some fluctuation, but a quarter is not acceptable. You have the same skills, the same education, experience, and background, and you need to get what you're worth no matter where you are, especially encourage you that in a remote setting. I'm fortunate to make what my colleagues in Chicago and Denver make, and I wouldn't accept any less. But the same is true on the other end of the spectrum. Like Jane said, there's a lot of times when a lot of the team that I manage is much younger, and I think sometimes, you know, they're expecting to be at a higher level than maybe their experience yield. Always show anyone, no matter what level you're at, if you're new in a job, work a level above. Already show that you are capable of doing the next position above you, and you will get it without hesitation. Don't wait till reach that point. Where you're, you know, at the point where you think you should be promoted to that level, to then be expected to show that you can do it. Because if you're already working at that level, you will exceed in pay and in growth opportunity even quicker than you imagined. So, and then one other point opposite of that too is don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, you know, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur. I think we can all say that, I transitioned from being in a corporate job where there were supplies in the closet, and I called the IT guy for help with my computer, and if I need a new computer, I just told somebody. When you start your own company, you are taking out the garbage. I had to learn how to run payroll and do financial things, and I was like, you have to find your strengths and hire for those that are not your strengths to be successful. I was really fortunate to have a business partner that not only was a good friend, we had known each other a long time, so we knew our strengths. So while she was better at financial numbers, she was not as good organizationally. So it seemed odd at first. We realized quickly, wait, I should be running the payroll and the invoices. There's no math involved, the system was doing it for me. She did the spreadsheet and I ran the business operations. So you have to play to strengths, find what you're good at, and not be afraid to do everything that's involved. I'm sure all the women up here today have done things that they never imagined. So it expands your careers, your skill set. It expands your future opportunities, and don't be afraid to do whatever it takes to make it work.
One of the things I'll tell you is personally, I gravitate towards things I'm very good at, and then I love playing with smarter people and being around people who are good at the things that I'm not. Looking back, that was a little bit of a fail-safe that I planted for myself. I shouldn't have done that. Even if I wasn't drawn to the accounting side or Excel sheets or whatever, the importance of knowing at least enough about what people are doing for you if you choose to run your own business is critically important. So you might not need to do that job all the time, spend time in that, but it's very, very important for you to know enough about it because things in general right now, because of the abundance of information, the pace of business is just so fast. Things are very fast and loose right now on the whole online world and internet-based programs and using this and that. So be very careful and be very nosy and be very involved in all aspects of whatever you're doing. And if you're working for a company, there's a point where you just need to realize your value as being an employee. They don't owe it to you to teach you the business, but if they're willing to teach you, be inquisitive. I will show and share anything if it meant that I could help a person. So I want to ask a point of business question right now. Are you keeping time for me or something? Okay, so oh, you do? See, I'm learning all the time. So I'm at the point now where I'm asking the panel all the same questions, and then we will ask questions. Okay, we're right on time. Look at that. Okay, Emily, I didn't need your planner for that, but I could have used it. That would have been good. So I'm going to ask you all just a similar question. So how do you feel, or how do you deal with rejection? You obviously had to hear no when you started out at 16, right? How do you deal with it?
I just kept going. I'm Irish and stubborn, so part of it's genetic. It's true. Part of it is just a willpower inside of you that if you get told no, you just get back up and ask again. So there were many, many times. So I'm in an industry, this is back before the internet. This is back before cell phones when I started my business. I mean, I drove around a little truck. I had my answering machine, and people would call and ask for flowers. And I started my business when I was 16. I then went to work for someone, but it took me years to get that job. And I just kept asking. It was one particular guy in San Diego. And it took me years, literally, but I just kept going for it. I just didn't stop. And eventually, I can't tell you how many times I asked him for that job. I think he got tired of me asking, and so he gave me the job. And then that was invaluable. When I went to work for him and work for someone that great, there was a whole nother learning process for me. But I didn't let no set me back.
I always think that not knowing the answer or having the fear of asking the question would be far more horrible to live with than hearing no. Because we've all heard no and we've all gotten over it. Believe me, it doesn't hurt a bit, I promise. But never having the courage to ask the question or to go for something or to try something and having that weight of the world on your shoulders. I meet people who have that, so. What about you, Grace?
Well, I think we talked about this at one point, that your greatest failure, or what you think was your greatest failure, actually is where you'll you'll build yourself the best from. I'm persistent. I mean, one of the things that we were always told, and this the girls in school were always told, about going into residency. And I'm going to use that because that's the industry that we were in. But if you're competing for a job, you're competing against a bunch of guys also, and not trying to be gender-based on it, but the boys' club was that they could hang out with the docs in the changing room. Well, we can't, and they have conversations and business deals are made in there. So a bunch of my girlfriends and I, when we were in med school, we took up golf because I didn't know to go golf at the time. And we did, and that helped because actually when you were in residency interviews, we were able to talk. We said, yeah, we can talk about that, but maybe we could set up a tea time. And then you start talking their language and get around what was their barrier against that. But persistence, I think, is one of the biggest things that, it makes you angry that you want to prove them wrong. But the only one really stopping you is yourself, honestly. Because just like what Emily was saying, you design and you find that purpose and you find that thing that makes you you. Because it really doesn't matter about what everybody else thinks.
What do you think, Katie?
I have a great story for this question. So I first came up for the idea for Old Hickory when I was around 22, 23 years old. And the first time I finally found a building that I thought would work for the bar, I met a lot of opposition from quite a few well-known people in Pensacola, and I got put into a tiny room to meet with some of the biggest names that you guys definitely know in town, because they were very concerned that a 23-year-old girl wanted to open up a whiskey bar down the street from them.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And to be honest, I really wasn't mad at them for questioning me, because a 23-year-old girl wants to open a bar. That seems kind of strange. But once I got in that room, I was more mad that once I tried to explain my concept, what I was trying to do, they still didn't want to have anything to do with me or anything that I wanted to do. Like you said, what makes you angry actually kind of builds you up. I ended up getting along really well with one of the people in that room who believed in me, what I was trying to do, and my vision for Pensacola, because I'm from here, I went to UWF, I'm a historic preservationist. Most people don't know what that means. Sometimes I don't. But I was all about rebuilding downtown Pensacola, and this was how I wanted to do it. And I found that particular person who believed in my vision, what I wanted to do, took me under their wing. And I think that's really what you need, is somebody to say, it's okay that nobody else understands what you're trying to do, but I do. Let's make this happen. So let it piss you off. Get mad about it, and use that to fuel yourself.
Debbie?
I also think your greatest challenges, or what feels like defeat at the time, are your greatest fuels for motivation. As I said, when I moved here, I didn't know anyone. It's a very who you know kind of community. So I didn't have that, and I wouldn't get anyone to call me back. Nobody would look at my resume. I had 10 years of major global brand and Madison Avenue experience, and I couldn't get anyone here to talk to me. And that fueled my fire. I was angry. I was gonna keep going, and no matter what, because I didn't find what I wanted here, I made my own. And that's what you need to do. You have to figure out your path, and those setbacks are not setbacks. They are your fuel and your direction and your vision forward. So as every single one of the ladies here said, use that passion. You don't give up. You don't give up. Look at, everybody, the Academy Awards this weekend, right? What did Lady Gaga say? Don't give up on your dream. And it sounds cliche, but it's really, really true. Nobody got to where they were because it was easy. And those that fought the hardest feel most successful. And if starting my company in the beginning was super easy and accounts just flowed my way, I don't think you would appreciate it, and I don't think you would fight for it and build it to be what you want it to be. You shape it to what you want it to be because you're faced with that challenge. So always believe you can do it, and just keep going and figure out your champions along the way.
I do want to mention one thing. I think that when it comes to rejection and building your own inner confidence in whatever you're pursuing, it's really, really important to surround yourself with people who are truth tellers, but who support you. And I want to recognize one person in the audience who's done that for me my whole career. We don't see each other very often, but when we do, it's like old home week real quick. Jennifer Grove, can you stand up real quick? Jennifer Grove is one of the classiest, smartest, most beautiful people inside and out, and I think I quietly always wanted to be Jennifer Grove when I was growing up. I think she's much younger than me. I'm just saying, professionally. And Becca Bowles is sitting right next to her, certainly right there with her, and you'll get to hear from Becca in a little bit. But I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who really believe in your success. Sometimes your family's fearful, sometimes your friends are fearful for you. And so we're going to get to the Q&A right now. But the one thing I want to ask them before we jump into that is, what qualities you think it takes to like run your own business? Like what is, if you had to name one single quality that you need to run your own thing, to do your own thing, what is it?
Willpower.
Yeah. Grace?
Humbleness.
Ooh, good.
Ability to say no.
Fearlessness.
I think I would sum up by saying fearlessness too. And like Shannon says, my theme song, you know, is Chumbawamba. You know, you get knocked down, you get back up again. You know that one? Well, there's a few songs. All the Panic at the Disco songs right now, those are all theme songs for my life. So you've got to like hear these voices from within. So with that, we're happy about having questions from the audience. So come on up, beautiful people. Who has a question for us? And if not, I have more, so don't worry about it. Come on up. Pretty lady in the green dress. Awesome. And I want, while they're walking up, to tell you guys that any of us are always available. So if you don't have those people in your life that want, or you feel like are empowering or get what you want to do, you have 5 new friends. So consider us it. Yes, ma'am. Tell us your name.
Helen Funk. If you could change one thing along the path of building your business or practice, what would it be?
You want to start?
Listen to your accountant. Learn
Ditto.
about
Ditto.
accounting a little bit. I am a creative. It did not come naturally to me. It's still not natural. But listen to what they're saying. Like, ask the questions. Like, the financial part of a business, the rest of it seems like a lot of fun, but it doesn't live if you can't afford it.
Love your P&L. Fall in love with the Excel or number sheet. Anybody else want to add in? Okay, come on up. Yes, tell us your name.
Good morning, I'm Shannon DeJesus. And my question is for any of the panelists. What was the biggest challenge that you faced when first starting your business, and from whom did you seek advice?
Well, Katie kind of told that story just a minute ago, so.
Well, I'm gonna try and take that one. Okay, as far as when I changed my business model. Okay, I went from a fee-for-service thing to a fee-for-service industry to a cash-based industry. Okay, I got rejected originally by my patients, you know, because me dropping Medicare was like huge. That's 40%, 44% of my practice. You know, as far as when I did that, I really had to talk to my accountant, look and really understand who am I doing this for? It's for the patient, but really struggled deep down and realized I'm going to have to make a lot of sacrifices with it. You know, with regards to that, I kind of lost track of what I was going to go with this. But but the thing is that when you make those, it's a dare. I mean, it's a daring move to drop almost like 44%, and you really don't know what's happening. And as far as the patients, I was trying to explain to them, I go, I'm not dropping you. I'm dropping your insurance. It's not. It's it's still, again, it gets back to, I want to help you. And so it's amazing. After I did that about 3 years ago, I still maintain about a 40% Medicare-based practice. Because I think your quality will always come through. I don't know if I'm answering exactly what it is, because I kind of got off track with what you were talking about. But if
That's all right, we get off track a lot.
Yeah, no, but with regards to it, when you find an opportunity to maybe go with your gut and try something new, go for it. Because, even though it may seem like the world is going to, tumble if you don't have this coming in financially, I mean, in the end, if you are doing good things and your quality, and your quality that you're giving out is good, it'll always shine through, okay? So
I want to add something to that you should be very open and accepting to the stuff that you're not good at or you find that you naturally resist against. It goes against what you would think of. It's just like that feeling, you know, where we're all saying we're fighters and we're tenacious and we keep going, but I'm a very spontaneous person. I was never a great corporate person because I always felt the best way of doing something was trying it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Nothing ever moved fast enough for me. So when I find myself now partnered with, I have a brand new manufacturing partner, and they're big. They're a 200-year-old legacy partner, and they love process. I hate process. But you know what? I love them. And I love who they are and what they stand for. And so I'm taking a moment to embrace process. Two things I heard today, some gals in the audience are turning 50 or have turned 50. And I just want to tell you guys, especially you youngins out there, 50 will be there before you know it. It's like a blink and it'll happen. But 50 is very young. And right now I'm a very vocal proponent of how awesome I think it is to start your first own enterprise in your 40s or 50s. And I will wear you out with all my great evidence of why that is. So take your early years to learn from a lot of people. Don't be in a rush. You have a lifetime. From what I see, retirement is highly overrated. And, you know, we want something that's easy and passionate. And so that these pivots that you find yourself, these things that you want, these ideas that you have, they can happen at any point in your life. You don't have to be perfect in your 20s or know and have it all done in your 30s. You can actually work for the man while you're raising your kids and punch out at 5 o'clock and know that you're going to have a paycheck on the 1st and 15. Those are all very rational, sane decisions. We would all tell you that. So with that, I want to ask you a question. We learned two things that was kind of funny during our, one, you know, as an individual, you always think what you do is really weird. And so I talk to myself a lot. And sometimes I'll even talk on my phone in my car so people around me won't judge me. But when I need to clarify things in my head, I talk to myself. They're very lovely conversations. We found out we all do it. We all do it. The other thing I learned today is that Emily Lay takes out a big piece of paper. When I whip out an 11 by 17 sheet of paper in my office, everybody goes, whoa, something's happening. So how do you achieve? You've got kids. How are you working on that good old life-work balance there, Miss Pauline?
That's a great question. Like Emily said, it's back and forth. There's no, real answer. It's, in my particular industry, we do long hours. We work with a perishable item. We also are primarily in the wedding business, so there's no do-overs. There's no, I'm sick, I can't make it. You're going to show up no matter what. So there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with that with my kids. So my kids, I call it wedding deployment. You know, I tell them I will be there every single morning. I might not be there every single night, but it's for 4 weeks and you're going to be okay. You've got your dad. I know he burns everything, but you're going to be okay. And so the balance is that, and kind of how she talked about seasons. That's very much my life. I work in season and out of season, and my kids know that. So that's how I balance. I'm like, just look forward to that, you know, little hump. We're going to get over this hump, and then it's going to be kind of back to normal, but then it's going to be not normal. And it's just training them to understand that. And fortunately, my husband is very understanding of that. Sometimes he's like, really, again? I'm like, yeah, it's just, you know, in the industry that I work in, time is of the essence. So if a flower shipment comes in late, we're staying late. You just got to roll with it.
Right. And I do think, do you realize that you're teaching your kids while you're doing this? I mean, I always think of it as like live theater, you know, so I always try to like, you know, like I want my sons, my two very capable boys, to know that I am not the only person who can plan what we're having for dinner.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why when we come out of the womb, that is our job. I mean, other people can figure out what we're eating at night, but how about you, Grace?
You know, absolutely. I loved the analogy of being on a bicycle because you do have to go back and forth. I am eternally grateful to my husband, Michael, because having someone by your side to bounce, again, surrounding yourself with the right people. I think one of the hardest things for me to now that I realize, but at the time when I was trying to transition things, learn how to ask for help. You know, we think we're supposed to be strong all the time. Ask for help. Whether it's at home, whether it's at work, you know, it'll come through in the end. Everybody wants people to succeed. With regards to putting the entire family to work, when you are your own business person, an entrepreneur, the entire family is also part of it too. My kids work in the office. Periodically, they'll file charts. They know how to take patients back. They answer phones. And as a mom, it is an opportunity to show them how to do. Your actions speak. Again, surrounding yourself with the right people, and being thankful for it. Taking that step back and making time for that.
Hey, Katie, before you answer the question, Katie has a new bar, an additional bar opening up on the signature space at Palafox and Garden Street. When are we opening?
Hopefully in about a month.
That's awesome. So how are you handling the whole balance of now even another new business?
I joke that I don't, but it's actually true. It's so difficult. I mentioned my husband works for me, and your husband does as well. So it's a very interesting game we like to play called This is Boss Hat, This is Wife Hat. And those conversations do happen at midnight in bed sometimes. You can't turn it off when you work together, you live together. So that has become probably the most successful thing I've learned about how to work with a relative of sorts. And I do this with my staff, too. I'm very close with all my staff. We call ourselves Whiskey Fam. We have matching tattoos. It's a very, it's my bonded tattoo. But we're also so close that I have to do that with them as well. If someone's messing up, because we all mess up. Everyone makes mistakes, and everyone is constantly learning. It's not bad when your boss tells you, you're not doing this right, let's fix this together. That's not a bad thing. I have to do that a lot. But when I look at them and say, okay, this is boss time. We're going to talk. I'm going to tell you something you don't want to hear, but that's okay. And then when I'm done with them, I check in with them as a person. I know you didn't want to hear that so much, but I just want you to know that doesn't mean you're not doing wonderful in your life right now. So finding that way to support them as individuals, but also be able to tell them they're doing something wrong, it's really important to keep them in balance as well.
Go ahead. Debbie, I think I'm going to ask you that question again, but I want to hear hers. Oh,
Yeah.
we need a box. We need a box. Talent comes in all sizes. Look at this.
I have a question from Rennie on Facebook. As a young 23-year-old Katie, what gave you the drive to say this, what I wanted to do regardless of the outcome I plan, and how to move forward from that?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I honestly think at 23, you're not really scared of much, which I think is a wonderful thing. If 32-year-old, well, 31, I aged myself. 31-year-old Katie knew what I know now when I was 23, I probably wouldn't have opened Old Hickory. I know, it's sad, right? So I think it's a great thing to be a little naive at certain things. It's great to kind of have your head in the clouds, because I think all of us can agree, if we knew everything it would have taken and all the things we would have had to do and sacrifice to be where we are today, we would have been very nervous about opening. Would we have changed it? No. I don't take anything back about all the struggles I've been through to get to where I am. It's always worth it in the end, but you just kind of got to have that strange little part in the back of your brain that doesn't really care about what everybody else thinks. You just got to do what makes you happy and what you know is going to make you a successful person in your life, whether that be your career, being a mom, whatever it is. Don't let someone tell you that you can't have that, even if it is a 23-year-old wanting to open up a whiskey bar.
And if Katie would have read a book called How to Launch a Successful Bar, a whiskey bar at 23, it still wouldn't have given her the experiences that you have to experience personally. So do not beat yourself up with it. They're just words on pages. Life is very fluid. The speed bumps that you have are just speed bumps. Come on back up.
All right. This question is from Kaylee on Facebook. We talk about faking it until we make it and having to learn as much as we can to do our job so. How do you shift from this feeling of having to prove yourself to saying, hey, I know this and I got this? And when did that happen for you?
Ooh, that happened to Shannon. I know it did.
When did it happen? There were several occasions that it happened. There was probably one more than the other where they built upon themselves. The first time was in an interview in New York City with Katie Brown. I ended up doing her books, and I ended up doing her television shows.
Wait, tell them who Katie Brown is.
So it's Katie Brown. It's back in the late 90s. She was kind of brought on to be the Gen X Martha Stewart. So we had a show on Lifetime called the Katie Brown Workshop. We did books, we did television shows. So, I just kept saying, I didn't have the experience. I didn't have this massive portfolio to take to New York City. I just had me. I had $1,000. I had a couch. And so I just kept pushing at it. Like in the interview, I was like, but I can do this, but I can do this, but I can do this, and just give me that shot. And then as someone will eventually take that, if you keep trying, someone eventually is going to pull you in. And then as you're like this little sponge, eventually you're like, oh, I'm good at this. And I don't know when the exact time is. It's different for everybody, but there will come a time when you're like, I got this. I can do this. And it does take those people taking you in under their wing and then showing you how to do things. But once they show you, you got to take it and go. So,
Go ahead.
Hello. That's a little short because I was on. But my name's Sierra, and I'm interested in team building. And I am wondering, what is your strategy for getting people that are not in your business passionate about what you're doing to do it with you? What's your strategy to get
So do you see yourself as a strong team player?
Yeah.
So, and not the leader of the team, but you like the idea of consensus and working on a team?
Well, I definitely consider myself a leader, but
Right.
How do we get those people to have the same mindset of wanting to be a leader?
Yeah, no, I would tell you that, and there's a whole new world out there of employment opportunities available where you're just, it's called jobbing or team, where you just go and work on a team because you have some level of knowledge or expertise to contribute to a team, and you might get paid $25,000, $40,000 for an assignment, and then you move on to the next. So actually learning this whole value of being a team, which is different than your question, I'm getting to it. But I did want to tell you guys that. I mean, it's, again, going back to that LinkedIn profile and letting people know who you are and what you have to offer. I think your answer to your question is all about how to tell your story, how to talk to yourself in the mirror. You know, you've seen a commercial with the girl with the deodorant or whatever, and she's like, you've got this. You know, you have to learn your pitch, practice what you're saying, be very succinct, know what you're trying to accomplish. I love words, and I'll run all over the map. And I've gotten really good at being able to specifically tell you what I'm trying to accomplish and how I need your help, how you fit in as part of my puzzle. So I come to you and I say, I want to do X, and I need for you and your incredible strengths and talents and whatever to contribute in this manner. Unless they're working on their no list, and Emily told y'all, people are working on their no list, so you might get a no. Mostly I find that people are very open, very respectful, and will. But it's all about your ability to tell your story, to be confident in your story, and to find the right people to link up with.
I will say this, if you are a team leader, because I have a whole team of females, definitely some are more leaders than others, but one of my youngest, brightest, she was 22 when she came to me, but she came to me wanting to be a leader, and she voiced that immediately. She's like, I can take care of all these people in here. And I was like, you're hired. And, we call her the boss. She's now 24. But she came to me and said, I can help you. You know, being a small business owner, you're wearing all the hats. you're in this room, and then I'm in here, and I'm in here, and I'm trying to, you juggle a lot of things. So to have someone that wants to be a team leader as a business owner is a dream come true, because that's someone that wants to work with you and build with you and give you the backbone that you need to grow. So that's an amazing quality. I would say put yourself in front of whomever you want to work with and tell them you want to be a team leader, because all she had to do was say, I got this. I was like, okay. And I hope she never leaves me. She can be the team leader as long as she wants. But it was a very refreshing thing. I have lots of creative people on my team that don't all want to be leaders because they want to create beautiful things, and we need to have that too. But I'm like, well, okay, but who's going to do the logistics? We got to get all this stuff from point A to point B. And so being a leader is just for me, it was a huge thing for someone to come to me and tell me they had that quality.
Debbie, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I think you have to keep in mind too, I think the word leader gets overused, and you can show leadership qualities in different ways that aren't necessarily running a team in the traditional sense of the word leader, because like Shannon was saying, you need all different people to make everything successful and come together. So what I do, and I've developed an org chart in my department and got approval on this, is create a dual path. You still have the opportunity to grow and excel in your career, and you have the opportunity to be a people manager and still continue to evolve, and you have the opportunity to be more of a subject matter expert manager and manage people just in project settings. So I think it's important. A lot of companies overlook this, and I think as you evolve in your career, that's your mentality too. I need to be a leader, and that's how I need to grow. And look for opportunities where you can shine and show your strengths, and those are leadership qualities too. You're solving problems, and you're showing what you're good at and showing value, and that's being a leader too.
You have more questions?
Yes, ma'am. Trista from Facebook asks, how do each of you use your gifts to give back to our community?
Well, we're here today. And we all gave up making money today to be here. I try every possible day, and I can't think of maybe a day that doesn't go by when someone, I'm a marketing and advertising person, then I have this startup-ish company over here, so I have a lot of knowledge in my head that I can't wait to share with people. So I try to give back to the community. In my advertising and marketing world, I was involved in almost every major project in Pensacola, and from the philanthropic side and do-gooding side, we call it do-gooding in my family, because they'll be like, Mom, you're off to more do-gooding, and I really dialed it back a little bit, but I love helping small business owners. I'm a small business advocate. I don't believe people should have rules that have never had to make payroll on the 1st and 15th of the month. That really grinds at my soul, because you need to know how hard it is to make it out there. So I try to help other people if they have an idea or with their business.
We give back in a lot of different ways. We work with so many of the nonprofits with, I donate my time. I see you, Kate, and I see Susan. We do about 10 major charities a year. We just did First City.
She helped me out.
So, Jane called me. She's like, hey, I'm working on this board. I just need to borrow a couple candelabras. Can you just do a walkthrough with me? So
and then I had a video camera there.
Because I walked through there, I'm like, okay, can I do this event? So anyway, we do a lot by giving back that way. We do a lot of, people that don't visualize. I can walk into a room and say, oh, let's lay out these 40 tables this way, and let's do the lighting, and just a visualization process that not everybody has. And then we do donate a lot of our product. We donate our design time and our labor. So we help out a lot of charities in that way.
The biggest thing that you can always give is your time. For me, when I was stuck following reimbursement insurance-based medicine, I was stuck in the office, not being able to do other things outside of my office. Don't be afraid of being successful and actually being able to make money for knowing what you're worth. Because that ability, and now the time that I have, I work at St. Joseph's. I'm, I think, the only working physician that's volunteering at St. Joseph's right now, clinic, there, because I have the time to do that. Which is good. I also try and give back also to we do shoe drives. A lot of times I'm doing a big shoe drive. If you go on my website, if you don't mind, if you have sneakers, every shoe pair that we get of sneakers, we give $1 back to Mission 850 for our friends over in Panama City and Mexico Beach. But I think as far as doing that, I do a lot of, when 90-year-old patients of mine come in to see me, their routine visits are free because I can do that now. There's a lot of nice things when you're not having to be following the rules of a third party, and that's what I'm able to do.
That's awesome. Don't forget about the tennis shoe drive. That's amazing.
Charity work has actually become one of my favorite parts about my job now. The flexibility of being on your own. You can put things where you want to without having to ask for permission. So we get to have a lot of fun with it because, I mean, to be honest, I own a fun business when it really comes down to it. So we do a lot of bartending competitions. We have one coming up in a couple weeks, and we auction off the cocktail that a bartender makes, and it goes to a local nonprofit around here. Cocktails go for a few $100s. It's really fun stuff. My favorite is probably when we have the animal shelter will bring dogs in, and everyone brings their puppies in, and we just have a big Sunday afternoon and raise money. We give outdoor prizes, and we just try to, my favorite motto is like party for a purpose. Who says you can't go out and have a good time but also help while you're doing so. That's a big, I'm also in a Mardi Gras crew, which starts tonight. Happy Mardi Gras.
Look at her fingernails. They're fantastic.
They're Mardi Gras. They're a lot, but so am I. But yeah, just being a part of my own business, being able to do it. I'm in a Mardi Gras crew that gives a lot to our community, and I'm born and bred in Pensacola, so for me, I can't believe I'm even in the place to where I can give back as much as I'm able to. So that's the best part, or one of the best parts to me about being an entrepreneur, is being able to be in that position to give back to your community.
For me, it's I have 2 young children. I started my company when my oldest daughter was 1, and then I had a baby 2 years later, and I didn't have time or money at the time. So I was really limited in what I could do. But now that they're older, I think honing back on something Emily said earlier about seasons, it's okay. Like, I always wish I could do more, and I think for a while I was trying to do too much. And it's taking that step back and knowing it's okay. So now I'm really choiceful about what I do. I'm a member of Impact 100 locally in the community. I am an executive mentor at the UWF program because what I can do is work one-on-one with someone, and I do have that, communication ability to do that, and I feel like I'm making a choice by doing certain things at certain times, and then I feel like I'm giving more because I'm committed to the things I'm doing at that moment than trying to do too much all the time.
Leah from Facebook asks, what advice would you give to young women fresh out of college who want to show potential employers how passionate you are about a career field but have limited experience?
Well, it is super, super important to do your homework. I mean, if you're really going out to, and I don't want to sound too harsh here, but a lot of times younger people just are so distracted with phones and social media and all of that. And I just wish I could say to you, in 20 years, none of that will be important. So take the time before you go to the interview, before you make the call, the whole talking to yourself and practicing, that's for reals. And also, don't experiment on the job of your lifetime. Go get and have a couple of interviews at companies that you may end up saying thanks but no thanks. Practice that. If that's that important to you, when I started Table Vogue, I couldn't wait to make a sales call. I couldn't wait to call a company to pitch this incredible product, this epic product that I've created, that I heard no to about, I think I counted 70 times. I called the biggest ones first. Well, that wasn't very smart on my part, I left myself very little room. Thank goodness some of the bigger ones were harder to get through to. And when I got people on the line, the right people on the line, everybody said yes. So it's really, really important to the person who asked that question and to all of you to research, to know what the company's up to know what's happening with them recently, to know some bragging rights, the good, the bad, the honest, and to go in prepared.
I would just say that going to work for someone else, maybe in the same field, going to work for several people, because I think you're going to change possibly what you want to do as well. You may want to be this, but then you ended up that, and just kind of take those different avenues. Don't set your sights just on one thing, and I think the end result will be a lot closer.
So give yourself permission to allow what's happening happen. Like, don't fight it so hard.
The other thing also is take every opportunity. I mean, you may not land your first job initially where you're going to be 10, 20 years from now. There's something that you're going to be able to learn from every position that you go through. The other thing also, it's just as, and I tell residents this all the time, it's just as important to learn what to do as well as much as what not to do. One of the things also, if you end up being your own boss, wearing lots of hats, it also includes being the customer. So it's very interesting. When I am in the room, I actually go and sit in my waiting room. I want to see how my patients look at. I pay attention to the floor, make sure it's clean, that nothing's there. But also how long, put yourself in their position, because that's just as important as you doing your job is your customer out there, in my case, patients. So you always want to put yourself in that position too.
I feel like this question is perfect for me because everyone wants to be a bartender, right? But a lot of people don't have the experience to be one, especially at the caliber that we hold. So what I love to see, if someone wants to come in and their main goal is to end up becoming a craft bartender, but they've never been in the industry at all, especially something like bartending, you don't really go to school for that. So the best way to get experience, you become a cocktail server, you become a prep boy, you become a bar back. These are all super important jobs. Bartenders can't function without the guy that prepped all the lime juice for them. So when you go into that interview and you say, this is the job I really want, and you're trying to wow them, but I don't really have the experience for that, know that they're probably, if you seem passionate enough, which is, again, like I mentioned before, that is key. Be ready to not get that job you first wanted. Be ready to be the cocktail server. Then once you are that, to touch on what Debbie mentioned before, work for the job that you don't have but want. I hire a lot from within. The bar manager for the Kennedy, the new place I'm opening, she started with me at 22 as a cocktail server. So just show your strengths by working in a lower starting level position. The reason why she's where she's at now is because she was a cocktail server. On her days off, she would come in and sit with the bartenders and learn their skills. She asked permission to train underneath them without any pay. Of course, I'm going to say yes to that. That's always wonderful. But to me, that just showed her true passion for what she wanted to do. If you're willing to be a cocktail server and then you want to be a bartender, you're willing to, on your days off, sit at home and read a book about the industry that you want to be a part of. That's what it's all about. So be prepared to not get that dream job at first, but like we keep saying, those positions are where you honestly learn the best way to be once you are in your position. Because you just said you sit and look to see if your floor is clean. I sit in my bar and make sure the bar stools are straight. Like, you're going to do the smallest task even when you're at the top. So starting from the bottom is key.
My first job, I really wanted to go into advertising on Madison Avenue in New York, and I had a great internship at Elle Magazine. I went to a good school, and I thought, yeah, this is in 1996, so same thing, like no internet. I had like literally faxed a resume to a recruiter that I got from the New York Times, want ad, like I had to hustle. But I went into that recruiter thinking, yeah, I'm a shoe-in for entry level. I wasn't expecting higher, but she said, yeah, you have a good internship, went to a good school, but I got 10 kids out there that had 5 internships and went to Ivy. You're gonna have to answer the phone. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was crushed, but you know what I did? I accepted that, and I got an entry-level job, which was answering the phone in the creative department of an agency. And thankfully, within 4 months, I was able to get a position that was a entry-level coordinator position in the creative department and learn all about the different aspects of it. So, and then even within that job, I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to show them my skills and what I'm good at. But I was told by a creative director, you have to go to classes, you need to build a portfolio. And so I didn't know that. I listened to that. I went to SVA at night, School of Visual Arts, and got to learn from some of the best copy directors and creative directors in the industry. So it's knowing what you don't know, not thinking you're going to walk in the door knowing everything, being open to being told what you need to do and following that path.
I think we have a couple of questions while you're making your way up. There's a couple of movies out right now that really demonstrate the downfall of one person in your life telling you can't do something or you shouldn't do something. One's like called The Writer, and another one's, I don't know, whatever. It's very disturbing to me. So please make a pledge to yourself and to all of us up here that you will not listen to just one person just deflate a dream or a goal that you have for yourself. So ask lots of different opinions. Seek lots of trust and support from a bigger network. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm not going to start a business, but I am.
Why? Everybody's doing it.
I know it. Well, I've got more important things to do, believe it or not. I'm a grandmother and a great-grandmother, and I've been sitting back here taking notes frantically, absorbing wisdom, so when they come to me, I can be this wise old woman who knows all
You're
this.
so cool. You're so cool.
Thank you.
Dr. Montgomery, what she didn't fail to tell you, Dr. Montgomery was a very successful physician here in town for many, many years, and a pioneer for women and women doctors in general. She and my mom were two of the early ones, and they've always, to this day, their patients love and miss them because they've retired, but I'm so happy for you. So good to see you.
See, something the new generation, we all brag on ourselves. She wasn't even bragging on herself. We're not afraid to tell you. I think somebody back there was trying to tell me to announce lunch. Oh, totally missed that. That's unbelievable. Thank you, Dr. Montgomery. That's I don't know if you heard that. I thought she was telling me something about lunch. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to do my job. That I am now. So on behalf of all the panelists, what you heard us today, hopefully loud and clear to say, you have our full permission and our total encouragement to do whatever it is that this life has in store for you. And don't be afraid of the little curves and dodges and weaves, and jump over that speed bump, hurdle that little obstacle, because we're all living proof that you can do it. Okay, so enjoy your lunch, and we look forward to the next panel.